and welcome to Career Tip Tuesday. And we are your co-host, Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network. And then we have
I'm Makita Matthews, the Chief Network Officer for BCWN.
all right, so welcome to another Career Tip Tuesday. So I know that we always do this every time, but we want to know where you're tuning in from. I see Kim and Deja and Vivian. So good afternoon, ladies. Let us know where you are watching from. We'd love to know what you're doing on your lunch break, like us. What we're doing, we're just talking to you all today. So, for those of you who are new to Black Careers Network, we are a career development organization that supports the professional development of Black women. And since 2012, we have helping Black career women across the country to help them create the type of change they want to see in their careers. So, Career Tip Tuesday has been one of our hot favorites here. They are coming in, Makita. They are coming in from all over. I see. Oh, I see
Hey,
Atlanta.
everyone. Hey, Atlanta.
Couple of Oklahoma ladies too. Some Ohio, love it. New York and Texas and Boston, loving it. Loving it.
Nice.
We're glad to see you all. So I know that we want to make sure we get this done by 1 o'clock. So we got a lot to cram in. So just wanted to share with you all what today's topic is, which is how to improve bad working relationships. Okay. We all
We've
know we
all
work
been
with
there. We have all been there.
we all work with people that we may not like, you know what I mean? Or may not care for their character. Maybe they do good work, but we don't like how they show up and treat others. It could be a gamut of things, right? But that's what we're going to be talking about today. And so, in order to kind of structure this, what we're going to do is break it down into 6 strategies for working with someone you dislike.
That's right.
6 strategies. So, Makita, tell me. I know that in your scope of your career at this stage in your life, what has been some of the things that you identified as triggers for you to say, what, I may not really like this person that I'm working with?
Yeah, so for me, I have a high sense of integrity. And for me, if I get a whiff that your integrity is not up to par, or you're maybe not necessarily telling the truth, or you are out here, kind of not making sense when you can just say, I don't know, let's figure it out. I have a really huge problem with that, and that's probably going to be somebody that I elect not to work with typically.
Yeah. So for me, it is, and we want to hear from you too. What are some of the things that are triggers for you to determine what you like or dislike working with someone? And it could be based on your values. A lot of times it is based on your values, right, Makita? Where you're making these decisions based on your work ethic, your values, and your beliefs. For me, I try to be open-minded to look at the person objectively, but there are some character flaws that will completely just probably shut me down, and then I kind of have to revisit how I'm going to approach you. So for me, it is one is integrity. I think it's very important. You have to be trustworthy and know that I can rely on you to not only do your job, but also trust that we can work together in a way that we're both able to contribute to whatever we're trying to accomplish, and that you're not trying to steal the work, right, or get credit for that. So I think that's important. For me, also too, another thing that's important is I like people who are truly collaborative. What I mean is not just team players, but you really want someone else's input, and you respect the input, or you really want buy-in from them, and that you want to work together collaboratively and not think it's just all about you specifically. So I like that because I like to include people and get their input, and so I value that in someone who can do the same for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I wholeheartedly believe you go further with more people.
Yeah. Sarah says someone whose personality is changeable, unpredictable behavior. She doesn't like that.
That's a good one. That's a really,
Hmm.
really, really good one. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Kim says,
Kim
I
says,
hear you.
I hear you. I love those people. Lord. I'm sorry, I couldn't even finish it. Yes, yes, Kim.
You can do
Let's
more
leave
for
those
me.
people
I
to the
get
Lord in prayer.
love it, Kim. She said, I'm so sorry, you got us over here on the floor, Kim.
Kim,
Okay.
Kim, you made my day. I want you to know you made my day. And I needed that. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh God, she said they can do more for you. He can do more for them than I can. I know that's right, girl. She's like, just give it all to him. I gotta let it go.
Oh
All
gosh.
right. And then Virginia says when they are your supervisor and finds no time to meet with you, no communication. Ooh, yeah. It's
That shows. It's
that's hard,
questionable. Do
isn't
they
it?
care about you? Do they care
Mm-hmm.
about your goals? Do they care about your work? How are they supposed to advocate for you, be your champion, be your sponsor for the next level? Yes, I believe I'm with you on that one, Virginia, as well.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. All right, so let's go ahead and break down and start out with these 6 strategies for working with someone you dislike. And the first one is understanding the situation. Um, I, I think it depends on if it's a situation that's making it difficult or is it the person's personality. I guess you need to assess what's going on, right? And try to find out where is this coming from. But you've got to do your own work first, right? Before you can seek to understand, you got to try to figure out, well, what's causing this? What's going on in this situation? What's driving this? What's triggering this? And then of course taking a look at yourself. Do you agree first to kind of see how you could be contributing to the problem, possibly, maybe? You always got to rule yourself
Mhm,
out
mhm. Right, right,
with that.
right.
I think you do.
Mhm.
I think with let's see, we have a comment here. Oh, Jennifer's just saying hello from Minneapolis. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, hello, hello. Um, any thoughts on this about understanding the situation, right?
Yeah, I think this is really key. I and you might disagree with me, Sherry, but a lot of times I try to put myself in other people's shoes. I really do. I try to understand, okay, we're trying to do this project, but do they have other projects going on? Are
Right.
they hearing, or do they have a lot of pressure from senior leadership to get something done? So I do think that this is huge, but also, like you said, what role do you play in this and understanding that as well?
No, I agree with the whole role do you play. You have to look at yourself and say, how could I be contributing to the situation? Because you do have to have some ownership in that. And then if you know it's absolutely not you because you've shown up in a certain way that you know that causes for integrity and for honesty and openness or whatever the case may be, then you do have to say, okay, it's not me, it's them. And then that next thing is analyzing why is it happening. That would be number two.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And this analyzing why is this happening, I'm a huge proponent of let's schedule some time and get feedback. What's going on? Why are we having these issues? Why don't we have a better relationship? Do our communication styles not clashing, and how can we fix this? So I think analyzing why, yes, do it by yourself, but also do it with the other person if that
Yeah.
person's okay with it.
And I like this. This leads us right into number three, which is try to connect, right? So, like you said, let's connect. Let's try to figure out what's going on here, because they may have triggers of their own that are causing them to respond the way they do. Or, I'm big on trying to figure out if you have a hidden agenda, right? Necessarily doesn't mean that it's not a good hidden agenda, but it could be something you're trying to accomplish that you're just
Yeah.
not making me aware of. And if you let me know about what it is you're trying to accomplish, I could probably help you with it. But if you're
Yeah.
doing it underhandedly, it's not good for you or I if you're
Hmm.
doing it. So I
That's right.
think
That's oh,
no, go
I
ahead.
was going to say that's I've found that often that there's a whole nother mo, there's another agenda when you do connect, and you could be um, you can kind of resonate with that, or you can understand, hey, maybe we need to find somebody else to work on this, and that's okay too. But I'm curious to know if during anybody's connection point, trying to get feedback, working with the other person to understand like what's going on. Have you uncovered any hidden agendas or different MOs?
It looks like Jennifer. Kowalski says, I often find cases of white fragility as a contributing factor because of the success in my career as a Black woman in a heavily white dominated workspace. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I like that, and I can see that. It's, I know Makita and I were talking about, the young woman, the because Makita, used to play basketball, and so she still watched a lot of that, and we were talking about the young woman and how she's been portrayed in the media for her own response to someone else in reference to doing the same thing they did and how she's getting scrutinized for it. So we know what that's all about, right? We know we come in and we're trying to honor who we are and be and making sure that we are being respected for who we are and how that can be portrayed. So when we're dealing with working with difficult people, we do have to think about, you do have to go back and think about analyzing the why and trying to connect and figuring out, because I always think in my mind, I always think everybody has triggers or they have an agenda they're trying to accomplish, but they're not being very clear about what that agenda is to you. I mean, how being communicating what the agenda is they're trying to accomplish.
That's right.
I mean, do you agree with that, Makita? Though, because I kind of think sometimes we're not very clear and open about what it is we're trying to really do.
I agree. I would agree with you on that. And I think that that's probably something, that could be for a multitude of different reasons. I think for me, the first thing that comes up as to why I would do that in the past was potentially because my ideas were being stolen and I didn't know how to
Hmm.
talk about
No,
um,
that's a
all
good
of
that's
that.
a No, you bring up a very good point though, because sometimes maybe that is coming from that because but the person that you are working with, if they don't know that that you're guarded this way and protecting this or not sharing much, is because you've had your idea stolen in the past, they still may perceive that as something else, right? So it is
Mhm.
kind of your responsibility to say, hey, I may appear to be a little guarded or I am a little guarded because I've had my idea stolen in the past. No offense to you, not saying that you're going to
Mhm.
do it, but this is the reason why I am behaving this way and kind of helping them to understand where you're coming from. It doesn't always necessarily mean that they're going to understand it, but you're communicating it,
That's right. That's right.
you know.
So Kim says the person should keep a log about the interactions. Yes, documentation is key for us. Recently, I was told to make the entries as audio notes in your phone, then email them to yourself to gather evidence in case you need them later. Good. Yes,
Yeah,
we
I
should
think,
always be documenting what's going on.
yeah, you know what my saying is, documentation is a Black girl's best friend, right? Especially in the workplace. But I think you're right, Kim, doing this, and you definitely have to pick and choose who you need to do this with. If you know it's someone who is at a high risk to be a sabotager or someone that is highly difficult to work with that could jeopardize what you're trying to accomplish, you absolutely need to make sure you're logging those interactions for sure. If you know they could be detrimental to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she says, yeah, the sabotage is real. Absolutely. And she also says, Dr. Jennifer, she says, Amen, you're right. Many employers fear people of color. And this is true. And sometimes the fear is not out of the fact that they have a lack of understanding. It's just that if they see certain gifts and talents in you that they don't have, it all goes back to what I consider that, is that more of that explicit bias where if you're a perceived threat, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be a certain way to sabotage you based on the fact that I think you're a threat, period. Um, Kim says, I work for PBS. The shade and the prejudices are real. Absolutely. And I think it just goes back to what Virginia said. She says, you CYA all the time,
Okay.
all the time, all day, Virginia. Okay. You were so right about that. All right. Let's go into number 4, which I think we've kind of talked about already, which is talking it out. But why is important? Why is talking it out important? Why is it trying to connect one and then talking it out important?
Well, first of all, like we've mentioned before, there might be some other things going on that maybe we don't know that could help shed some light on the relationship, the communication issues, etc. Um, and that could be in the person's work life, but even in their personal life, but also to the point of documenting and making sure that your CYA try, just in case something escalates, just in case something goes a little bit further, you can have documentation that you tried to rectify the situation.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's important when you let's go back to I'm gonna go back to number three for just a moment. Then I'm gonna kind of
Mhm.
go back into number three is try to connect. So if you decide you want to schedule 15 minutes to talk to them on the put on the calendar and they don't accept it, go over to them. Say, hey, I just wanted to put 15 minutes in your calendar so we can kind of talk through some things. And if they're not open to that, then you got another problem, right?
Mhm.
But that's the first step is thinking when you're trying to connect, and if they're not receptive to that, then what is your next step? You
Mhm.
might need to be very direct and say, I'm trying to connect because of this. And be
Right.
very specific on, this happens. I'm trying to seek to understand how we can work through this and be direct, right? If they're still not willing to connect, then you might need to think about, maybe getting some outside objective advice from someone to say, what strategy can I use to resolve this issue? But if they are willing to talk it out, right? They say, we'll take time to do that. When you sit down and have that conversation with them, make sure that you're sharing things they do well. And then kind of go into, I really feel like that based on, and just kind of just give the clear examples of what you've experienced so they can make sure that they're kind of isolating down to that incident
Mhm.
so they can
Mhm.
look at themselves and what happened in that situation. Just be very specific with that.
Right.
So talking out is important. And tell them what you want the outcome to be too. Make sure you're letting them know, I really want us to be able to work well together, or I want us to be able to accomplish this goal. I'd like
Mhm.
to see us, be able to do this in the future or what have you. But be very specific on what you're trying to accomplish and what you want the outcome to be from making sure that you all have a great, good working relationship.
Right. Right. I would agree 100%.
Yep.
Why do you all think it's important to talk it out? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. And here's the thing. When you sometimes I think we get frozen and we stop at the talk it out piece because we don't
Mhm.
want to be perceived as the angry black woman or having the attitude where people think we
Mhm.
come in there and snapping our fingers and rolling our eyes and doing all our hand
Mhm.
motions and all those things.
Mhm.
When really,
Mhm.
truly, honestly, you're trying to get to the bottom of why you're not able to work well together, right?
Mhm.
Somebody has to step
Mhm.
up and do it. And if they're
Mhm.
not willing to, then that's just showing another level of their character and also possibly I hate to say use the word confirmation bias, but it could be confirming the toxic behavior that they have,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
if that's what it is and you're clear about that, then there's a whole nother approach of that you need to use
Mhm.
when you're working with them. But at least
Yeah.
you know you've done your part to try to work
Yeah.
through that directly with them,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sherry, I actually have a question, and I'm gonna use a word, and I don't know if you're gonna like it or not, but hopefully you understand what I'm going to say. But in these situations where you set up some time to talk it out, do you think it's important to, um, so to speak, disarm at yourself as you go in, meaning, hey, I know we've, articulating, hey, I know we've not had a smooth ride so far, but I want to let you know that I want X, Y, and Z to happen. Um, how do you go into this letting them know that you want essentially some change to come? And so disarm yourself and let's be calm, cool, and collective here.
Yeah, that kind of goes into our number five, which is managing your emotions, right? When you get ready to have these conversations, you do need to manage your emotions and come in with a certain type of a presence that is
Mhm.
what I
Mhm.
consider, in the DNI world, we always talk about psychological safety. So
Mhm.
you as
Mhm.
a person who's going to have this conversation, you have to make it safe not only for yourself, but safe for the other person to want to have a conversation with you too. So how
Mhm.
you come in prepared to address the uh the tension between the two of you,
Mhm.
um, you have to make it safe for them too.
Mhm.
Because you want to be able to you want to be able to be for it to be safe for you to share feedback, but they need to feel safe. So if you're coming
Mhm.
in showing respect, praising them for some things they do great, and then also saying, but and then going into the, well, this is an area I see this a potential problem for you and I. Let's talk through this. Well, how can we resolve it? You get what I'm saying? So
Yes.
they also need to come to this conversation with a level of maturity, emotional maturity, and
Yes.
a willingness
Yes.
and openness to um, be vulnerable enough to say, my bad, you know, but also share, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, or this is why I'm behaving this way. It could be, like you said, and then if they are vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I've had some things happen to me in the past, so I'm a little cutthroat when it comes to certain things. They got to own up to it. I mean, we're talking about having adult conversations here, right? So it does take for someone who's truly mature to be able to say, okay, let me own up to what I've been doing. And
That's
that's
right.
hard for people. That's hard for people to be put in a hot seat when they know they're not treating others the way that they should be.
Mhm. Mhm.
We got a lot of comments here. Um, One
Yes.
listener to this is, a lot of parents just push you to turn to the angry black woman so they can validate the stereotype about you, and that's confirmation bias. That means they already have, they already have what we call an affinity bias. They already have this certain, because of based on an action that they think that you had, that they think an action you have had. They already think you're a certain way, and now they're looking for anything to confirm what they think they know about you already.
Mhm. Mhm.
you know and here's the thing, we all have biases, but at the end of the day we have to check ourselves. We have to control that by being open-minded, being inquisitive, and being open to learning about people who are
Right. Right. Dr. Jennifer says, I find it interesting that we generally are the ones trying to rectify the situation. I look for allies to help with that approach.
Oh, absolutely, Jennifer. And you should always do that. If you feel like you're a one to, there's a book called Crucial Conversations. And I took a class with the professor who actually wrote the book. And it's a great book because it talks to you and gives you approaches on how to
Mhm.
approach people who are difficult to work with. But if
Mhm.
you having an ally or someone who is, a third party who's just on the outside looking in to give you some insight, can really help you to approach it in a strategic way. It's
Mhm.
just about having that mindset of, I'm going to go into this not really looking for them to respond a certain way, but be open to what may be evolved from the conversation, but stay true to who you
Mhm.
are and not let that person shake you, because they could
Mhm.
become some more aggression that you didn't even know was there based on
Mhm.
you just trying to work things out.
Right.
hmm Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Nicole. Yes, we did have our mentor summit over the weekend. It was amazing. So we're getting ready for Atlanta in 3 weeks. So it's coming up soon.
Mhm.
All right. So we have a LinkedIn user that says we can only control the controllables. Being that we can't control people, all we can do is try, like you mentioned. It shows that you weren't a quitter. Unfortunately, sometimes that's what it has to come to for the sake of our mental well-being. Yeah. But you know what? I'd rather walk away from that conversation knowing, you know what? I came here to try to see if we can get to a good place and it didn't happen. So that's on you, and you just kind of learn to work around some of that. It
Right.
can be uncomfortable.
Right. So Kim says, a mentor of mine gave me a tool against the angry black woman syndrome. He said, when the person says something to get you to react, start lowering your voice. Only the offender is heard by everyone. People will come to your aid based on the comments heard by the offender.
So
Interesting.
Kim, has that worked for you? Have you
Mhm.
tried that? And has that worked for you? I'd like to know
Mhm.
if that's worked for you or not. Okay. Let's see. Oh, Jennifer's responding to Jamila Thompson. I've gone to leadership in these cases and was gaslighted. Where is your proof? They don't understand the microaggressions, the biases. Yeah. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, if they're not, yeah, either they understand them because they've been taught if you have a DNI program, or they just refusing to just, they're just not dealing with that, which is
Right.
could very well be the case too. And Dr. Jennifer says, also, Black women will assume they're caretaking a role. It's in our DNA to make sure everyone else is all right. Yeah. And
Mhm.
so here's the thing, when we're talking about working with difficult people or trying, we're not doing this for them. We're doing this for us. We're doing this for ourselves so we can learn how to work better with them, understand them better, and take the stress off of us, right? Because after a while, if here's the thing, you put it back on them. And two, here's the thing: if when you are going to them and you want to say, "Hey, I want to learn how we can work better together," if they're not willing to do that, then they're already showing their hand of who they really are, which is absolutely shitty on their part. But at the end of the day, guess what? Now you know. Now you have a
Mhm.
clear indication of what you're dealing with, and now you can come back and show up and deal with them in
Yeah.
another way.
Yeah. And
So
it,
again,
it shows that they're not, you know, they're not a good professional. They're not trying to work with you for work for the sake of completing the goal, for the sake of completing the project, for the sake of, getting things done. They're not there for that. So you know what to do after that.
so Kim said she said yes, it has always worked for her, which is good. I know that we have a link that you say she's tired of black men being not being treated fairly and given the same respect, the support we deserve. We shouldn't have to keep bending over backwards to be accepted. Yeah, and so this is not even about accepting either, you know. Yeah, he's talking about microaggressions and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: I am a big advocate, and Makita is too, of self advocacy and standing up for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And if you don't take those steps to speak up and be clear, set expectations on how you want to be worked with, but then also try to understand where they're coming from, you know, you're gonna also be perceptions on your part about who you think they are. And if you're not willing to take that first step, even though they're not, to try to clear that up, again, you're being the bigger person. So if they're
Mm-hmm.
showing their tail on the other end and not want to be receptive to working through the problem, then again, you already know what you're dealing with, and now you need to deal with them accordingly. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can't ever just be upset at the fact that, you know, you have to be the one to go and give out put out the olive branch. You need to know how they're gonna respond to you to show their true character. And you're not gonna
Yeah.
know that until you try.
Right.
And I
Yes.
trust me, I've had some situations to where I've done that and they were complete a-holes and didn't change. But guess what I did? I continued to be who I am and say, okay, now I've got a level of acceptance of who they are. Now I can start to work with them on another level. But
Mm-hmm.
also still pay attention to if they even slightly get out of line with me, I'm still gonna show up and let you know that we're not playing these reindeer games today, right? So you need that because it gives you another heightened level of how you need to work. If you know this is somebody who you already know that they're not changing how they work with you, you have to now have higher level of spidey senses to be able to call out any little bit of disrespect that may happen, and be
Right.
strong about that. I've had to
Right.
do it, and it worked for me. After a while, you know, all that other attitude calmed down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, so you have to do that. And you know, the link that said, yeah, knowing who you are is a key to survival. Yeah, you have to know who you are when it comes to being that having that level of professional. You know, like Makina, we have a class on this where we talk about your defining your professional identity because we all have a professional self and how we show up. And if you don't have a clue who that is, yeah, it can be hard for you.
So we had a LinkedIn user say not to play devil's advocate, but sadly I've seen Black coworkers microaggress against their own.
Oh,
Wrong
that's
is
not
wrong.
devil's advocate. That's the truth. There's nothing.
Yes.
There is nothing devil's advocate about that. You know, we talked about that at our mentor summit we did over the weekend, talking about all skin folk and kinfolk, right? And that's the
Yes,
truth. So we know they
and
can also go
you're
ahead,
right.
Makita.
Wrong. I was going to say you're right. Wrong is wrong. Period. You should document that as well, as documenting the microaggressions against our counterparts. But the fact of the matter is, like you said, wrong is wrong. Period.
Mhm. Yeah, regardless of who it is. So, you know, we're not, you know, when we're talking about this specific topic, we're
Mhm.
talking about regardless of, it could be someone look like you that you don't like.
That's right.
And then you may need to have that conversation with them too. So
That's right.
this is for everybody. Um, the invincible
So Kim
black woman.
also says, Oh,
Go ahead.
what were you saying, Drew? Oh, Kim
No,
also
oh, go
says
ahead.
the invisible black woman is what world seeks. The invisible black woman is what the world seeks. Is that what you're trying to say? A good black invisible worker has helped to create many corporate miracles. The truth. We have made our supervisor look fabulous and miraculous. If we say something, it is heard as sour grapes. Good point.
Yeah. So here's the thing I always say is that if you have one person that's difficult to work with and everything else is going great in your role, and that it's just that one person, you deal with that. But if you collectively have a whole bunch of elements of this going on, then you might need to reassess if it's the right place for you to stay. But I do think we're going to always have this. This is going to always happen wherever we work. It's going to be always one, as we always say, it's always one, right? But you having the tools to be able to navigate through this and, successfully be able to say, okay, I'm hoping we can get to a place where we can get past a lot of these things. Because, like I said, they're probably coming to work with their own workplace baggage that's hindering the relationship from moving forward. But being open to get do that. I have someone who the chief officer, and I mean we started working together, and it was rocky in the beginning, and it took us a while to get past some of the ways we were working together and the different ways we were looking at the work, the scope of work, and how we were trying to accomplish it. But now we're like, God, remember those days when we were just like me and you was we were bumping heads, and now we're in a great place. So you just have to get to a point to where you just come out and say, hey, I want us to be able to work together better. What can we do to work through this?
That's right.
And it's about showing being a mature professional, getting it done.
That's right. That's right. Sherry, I didn't realize we only have 5 minutes left.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so let's get to the
Number
number
six.
number six, which is our last strategy, which is keep negativity to yourself, right?
Mhm,
And which
mhm,
means that now doesn't mean you can't go home and talk to your spouse about it, or call your girlfriend up,
mhm,
or
mhm.
or call your bae, as my daughter calls them. But again, at
Right,
work, keep that negativity to yourself, and then you have a mentor, if you have a sponsor, if you have someone who that you can talk to about this, that can help you through it. You
right,
kind of dump it on them, right?
right,
So you can
right.
get the feelings out. But again, kind of reassess that. So just keep the negativity to yourself. But again, if you find a microaggression or a slight remark or something, you got to call that stuff out. Don't let that
Right.
slide. Call that stuff out. So I know we got 4 minutes left, and we have a couple more comments. Hi, Sonia. Sonia says, great advice. Let's just make sure we answer this LinkedIn user's comment. She says, once I was pulled aside after a group interview for a position in sports as only the black female amongst men. I need to tone it down. The director told me
Mhm,
the black woman. So we cannot limit this to one ethnic group at all. I got the job after accepting it anyway. Yeah. So if you notice, we haven't talked about any ethnic groups in this. We're just talking about people, period, because we know we work in multicultural, multi-generational work environments for the most part anyway, right? So
mhm,
um,
mhm,
this could be anyone. It can be your boss, this can be a peer, it can be a colleague, it can be maybe someone that you just reported dotted line report to, who knows? But these are strategies that you need to have for yourself. I mean, if we're not self-advocating for ourselves, no one else will. We already know what
mhm,
we're walking into when we walk into these workplaces. And
mhm.
so we have to be able to know that and be clear. If you have to say, I've said it before. I was like, look, I'm going to say this. I don't want anybody in this room to try to portray me as the angry black woman, because I am trying to be clear about what needs to be accomplished here.
Mhm,
Sometimes you got to call it out, you know, but you do have to read the room and see what audience that you're talking to when you say things like that. But sometimes we
mhm.
just have to not be afraid to self advocate for ourselves when we're in these
That's right.
workplaces. Nobody
That's
else is
right.
going to do it for us,
That's
and
right.
we have to be for ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
All right, I know we got 2 minutes left. Thanks, Tamala. Virginia, you are so welcome. Absolutely. We'll leave this replay up for you all to come back and take a look at it. Any last words? Let me go ahead real quick and just wrap up these six. I'll just put them back up on here on the screen. Stick strategies for working with someone you dislike. One, understand the situation. Two, analyze why. Three, try to connect. Makita, you want to take the next three?
Mhm. Sure. 4, talk it out. Very important. 5, manage your emotions. Manage your emotions. And lastly, keep the negativity to yourself.
Keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. So before we wrap up, I want to make sure that you all know that you can get connected. You can get connected with us. Download our app. And be a part of our community. Right now, we have our community. They are watching. They are watching live from our community, as you all are watching live here on LinkedIn. Our
Mhm.
community is also watching live as well from our mobile app. But we want you to get connected and become a member. You know, we do this to connect with you all and to give you advice. But if you're looking for support, mentorship, group coaching, if you're looking for resources, all of
Mhm.
those things to help you with your career growth, development, and support, we're here for you. So just
That's
download
right.
our app on Google Play or the App Store, or you can go to bcwnetwork.com.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
All right, we're going to wrap it up today. We're glad you all watched for Career Tip
Mhm.
Tuesday. And we'll